Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon. Hey guys, it's Vandy as buying a card fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and story. This time we're covering set 12 Granfia for Stoicheia. This is my last deck profile for set 12. All around, it's interesting to say the least. We got like a handful of upgrades. We got that one really good promo I really wanted to use, but because of my rules on promos with decks, I'm not allowed to use it till it gets an English art, which sucks for me because I really like it, but we'll wait it out for that one. But we got a really solid grade 1 that works out well with the deck, and we got a good grade 2, question mark? I forgot what I shoved into this deck. But let's go and get started, shall we, and see what we got. First up today, we have our starter in Kind-Hearted Prince Granfia. I knew I forgot to change one of their names. I knew I forgot to change one of their names, and it was this one. Anyways, Kind Lordling Granfia. Grade 0 boost 5k, shield 6k, base, auto repellent for second, draw card, stands, it's just a free draw if you win second. Man, he probably would have been the best one with the whole, mega art or whatever, where you have the triggers and then you have the units. I don't know why they stopped doing that. Like, even with the restriction on the amount of criticals and draws and front you can have in a deck, they still could have done it, because honestly, having a castle in the background would be cool. But, hey, it's a free draw if you go second. The ride line does actually kind of require this in the thing, in the soul, I believe, or at least the grade 1 does. So, it's nice to have as a one of in the ride deck just in case. I mean, even if it doesn't, it's nice just to go for the theme. Then we have our first up 10 plant tokens. So, yeah, grade 0 boost 5k shield. They have no shield, they can, or 5k base, they have no shield. They're just considered rear guards, but they are plant tokens, so they cannot be put into the main deck. You just call them via effects. And, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to them. Most of the time, they just get board nuked and then sent under one simple card, and you want 10 of them because you're just going to be sending a lot under that same one card, so you want to have the most amount as possible. And sometimes I tell you what, even 10 doesn't do it, especially when I'm going full try hard and I'm putting every single way of getting plant tokens as possible onto the board and then shoving them all under one card. So 10 plant tokens, sometimes that's not enough. I'm willing to bet somewhere around 15 would be enough, but 10 is enough for those games I'm not going to try hard. And then we have 1 Nobel Rose token, the thing that all of these get shoved under. Grade 0 boost, 5k base, no shield. Represents a Nobel Rose token. It cannot be put into the deck. Contains rear guard. This unit cannot be moved to other circles. And if you have a Vanguard Granfia in this card name, all of the following abilities are active. When your plant tokens will be placed on rear guard, put it as a plant gauge under this unit instead. This effect is mandatory, so it literally just gets to slide under it. And then this unit is 5k power for each of its gauges. Yeah, that's typically at least 25, I say at the least. So there have been games where I think it's hit 50. And there have been games where if I had more plant tokens, it probably would have hit over, no, I think there was a game where it hit 70 something. So cool, it can add numbers. And then when you would retire a rear guard for a cost, if this may be paid by retiring a plant token rear guard, you may pay it by discarding a plant gauge as well. I'm always hesitant to do that when it's just says retire a rear guard, because I always feel like it must specify a plant token. So whenever there's an ability that just says retire rear guard, I typically don't aim for the Nobel Rose token just in case. If I'm wrong, someone please tell me so I can play less cautiously. But I mean, hey, either way it works out. But if you can kill the rear guard and still kill a gauge, it's fun because you can benefit from getting more tokens out of it. So one of the Nobel Rose token, because you only really need one because of how it works, and it gets a shit ton of numbers pretty much. Then we have our Overtrigger in Source Dragon Deity of Blessings, Bless Favor. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger, my Overtrigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units. It gets +1 mainly for the turn. And if you vote it during draw check, activate its additional effect, which you get draw a card, choose one of your units. It gets +1 crit for the turn. All your form gets +10k. And if your damage zone has the same number of cards of your opponent's damage zone or more, choose a card from your damage zone and heal it. All around, pretty solid. Guaranteedly, when you see this, and I call this my favorite over, or one of my favorite overs for a reason, and I have a funny story to tell about this after this, but pretty much you're guaranteed the 1 million in a draw, regardless if you damage check or drive check it, and you're technically guaranteed a heal if we count the heal effect going off, but also if you drive check, you get a second draw, so you get 2 whole draws, someone gets a million, someone's getting a crit, probably either the Vanguard or whatever got the million, you get 10k to the front row, which is great for trigger passing, and you possibly get a heal out of it. So all around, Bless Favor is a very solid over, and the reason why he's one of my favorites is because he's like an everything bagel. I always call him everything bagel. And yesterday, actually, so by the way, today is Thursday, August 10th at 8:06 a.m., even though I keep thinking it's Friday, but yesterday on Wednesday, me and my friend played a match. He was playing not Granfia, he was playing Giraffa, and I was playing Luard. Yes, Luard. And basically, the final, he had 4 deck cards left, and it came down to, if he sees the over, I win, because he didn't stride, and lo and behold, his first drive check was the over, and we were both praying there for 5 seconds, just trying to be like, over, yes, no, over, no, please, and lo and behold, it showed up, so I won by deck out. But either way, though, Bless Favor, one of my favorite overs, even when I'm not playing him, he still plays for me. Me and Bless Favor, we have that thing going on. Never play against me with Stoicheia. Bless Favor's on my side, baby. One of Bless Favor. Then we have our normal triggers, so if we run 3 copy copy of Serene Maiden Lena, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continuous guard circle. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, she gets plus 5k shield. So, 10k shield is nice to have, not to mention the fact she's a draw trick, so she helps increase the hand. And because this deck doesn't spawn outplant tokens to the rear guard circles, but instead go under the Nobel Rose tokens, you have to find a way to continuously get back those rear guards, and Lena being there as a draw trigger is nice to have. I don't know why. Lena's probably one of the few triggers that I've had in D in general that will always show up no matter what deck I put her in. Like, in my Magnolia deck in real life, I only run one copy of Lena because I only pulled one copy of Lena from a booster set. She literally shows up every single game, consistently, almost at the same point. And then whenever I play her in any of my other decks, again, she shows up consistently. Granted, not at the same points, but like she will show up when I need her to, kind of. So Lena's nice. She's one of those draw triggers I can actually rely on, and for some reason her luck stack never changes. So 3 of Lena, nice to have for help increase hand, and worst case scenario, 10k shield and guard power. Then we have 4 fronts and Frenzied Harris, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, continuous guard circle. If opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, 5k shield. This is really helpful for those games where the board gets nuked and you kind of got to bring it back. Like, if you commit everything to hand, from hand to rear guard circle, and you get to late game after your board got nuked, yeah, Frenzied Harris kind of comes in helpful. I would know, because I accidentally put myself in the situation a handful of times. Either way, also being a 20k shield is also nice to have, but also just being a front trigger in general, so you can put a little bit more numbers to your front row, even when you get the rear guard restand from Granfia's skill as well. So just 4 Frenzied Harris. Like, she's all around a very solid front. It's nice to have her. Then we have 4 crits, Inspiring Maiden Alana, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear, at the end about a boosted, put this unit to soul, choose one units, I guess plus 2k for the turn. All around is nice to have, because if your board does get nuked, you are going to be spending a fair amount of soul trying to get back the Nobel Rose token. So Alana, worst case scenario, is for those board nuke situations, but at the same time, it's also just a free 2k in soul charge if you really want it, but it's mainly here for the critical aspect. And if you want to go full aggressive, say fuck the fronts and just run 4 more crits. And just, when you have a restander in the deck, that just makes it better to run 8 crits. So for Alana, if you want to run 8 crits, go ahead and get rid of Frenzied Harris for it, but I prefer the Rainbow. And then we have 4 copies of Flowery Tone, who I keep wanting to call LG Pixie, because for those of you that don't know, when I first put Flowery Tone into tabletop, I copied over from a Zorga deck, and I forgot to change the name of LG Pixie to Flowery Tone. So now every time I think of Flowery Tone, I think of LG Pixie. Anyways, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k base, standard healness, but I don't really like the effect heals too much. The 2 situation, in my opinion, I'd rather have a consistent 15k shield over the fluctuating 10 to 25, but if you want to run the effect tools, go ahead. And then we move on to our grade 1s. First, we have 3 copies of Residents of the Rose Domain Chip Mass. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. This ability has only ever gone off once, and yet that one time is what won me a game. Auto rear guard once per turn. When 3 or more of your plant gauges are discarded at the same time for the cost of your card's ability, this unit gives 10k power for the turn. Cool. Doesn't matter whose ability it's for. So, if you retire 3 rear guards for some arbitrary reason, you can use Nobel Rose token for that if I'm correct, and then he'll just get plus 10 for 18k. I kid you not, that won me a game because I had just not enough to be able to hit over, especially because I didn't pull triggers, and then I forgot about the 10k, and then the 10k was added, and then whoop-de-doo, I was 5k over the amount I needed to win. So 3 of Chip Mass. His skill comes in real handy. It is a free 18k swing or booster pretty much after you hit grade 3, and is all around a very useful grade 1 that won me a game. And also, he's super cute. He has like little chipmunks in his tail. Oh, I love this so much. And I just love his outfit in general. 3 for me. The art style itself, the card, the boy, it's all 3 for me. Then we have 4 copies of Rosium Fairy, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. So while this made it here because I just like the card, this made it here because I thought its skill would be nice, and arguably it isn't in its own right. Anyways, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto, when placed on rear guard circle by retiring another rear guard, you can call up to 2 plant tokens to rear guards. They are grade 0 boost, 5k shield, or 5k power, critical of 1, and then have boost. But if you have this on the board, there's going to get sucked right under it. But then his other ability is auto rear guard. When this unit attacks, if you have Vanguard, Granfia, or Leonor in its card name, and your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, choose one of your back or rear guards, and increase this unit's power by that unit's power until end of battle. Cool. So, it can basically make itself gain the Nobel Rose token power, and if you combine it with Granfia's ability to restand, it adds a little bit more pressure to that. My only gripe with this is, I don't know. I just don't like that it's not until end of turn and make it a little bit better just for PG fire. I can see why it's not end of turn. I don't know. I just like Chip Mass more, believe it or not. Rosium Fairy is that big rarity card that, has really good skill, and this is an okay-ish card, and yet for some reason, in my opinion, Chip Mass is just somehow better than Rosium Fairy. But, she's nice to have, she gets 2 plant tokens, so she fills up the gauge by 2, and when she swings, you just pick the Nobel Rose token. If you used her ability that turn, it's at least getting plus 15, so there's that. So, for Rosium Fairy, it's nice for, big board swings, and it does all of its skills for free, but, I don't know, it's art-wise and skill-wise to me is less appealing than Chip Mass. Then we have 4 copies of Farmin' Pumpkin, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I'll be running this boy to the end of my days. Active rear guard once per turn if you have a Vanguard Granfia in its card name by soul blasting 1, call plant token to rear guard. And if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or grade, you can call it for 2 instead of 1. Again, they're 0 power, grade 0, 5k power, 1 critical, and have boost. So, you know, being able to call plant tokens for a simple soul blast is great, regardless of what grade your Vanguard's at, because you're most likely going to have Granfia's lined the entire time, which is nice to have to get 1 free plant token. So, you know, before you get to grade 3 and get the Nobel Rose token, you just get to spam the board with plant tokens. But then using his other ability, if you get to grade 3, you can get 2 plant tokens instead of 1, which all around is pretty solid, you know. You can still call only 1 if you want to, but it's nice just to get multiple and get more cards under the Nobel Rose token. And if for some reason you don't want to play the Nobel Rose token because maybe you don't have CB, or maybe, you know, it's just not worth it because it's going to sack up all your rear guards, then you can use it to promote a rear guard and then just not use a Nobel Rose token. So all around, 4 Farmin' Pumpkin, very solid grade 1. It does its skill for a simple soul blast of 1, which is nice to have, so it's a good grade 1, 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Burrow Mushroom, the card that people will run in any deck that spams plant tokens, and me knowing full well that that's a good idea, but knowing that I restrict myself to using a card's full ability, I'm not allowed to do that. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, act rear guard, put this unit to soul, come to 2 plant tokens to rear guard, and if you have a grade 3 or grade Vanguard Granfia in its card name, choose one of your rear guards, I guess, with 5k power for the turn. Plant tokens are grade 0 power, 5k power, 1 critical, and half boost. By the end of this video, I'll be able to say that properly. Anyways, basically, it gets you soul, which is nice because it fills up Granfia's cost, it fills up this thing's cost, but then you also get 2 plant tokens on top of that, regardless of what grade your Vanguard's at, but only if you're at grade 3 is when you get the 5k, and not if that matters. You use it for the free soul and 2 plant tokens. Burrow Mushroom is a very solid grade 1. It's stupid not to run this out of 4. The fact that it's not a double rare in of itself is stupid because, again, goes to soul, makes either Granfia or Farming Pumpkin free, and then you get 2 more plant tokens on top of that, basically meaning either you get 2 free rear guards, or if you have the Nobel Rose token on board, you're making at least a 15k base. 4 Burrow Mushroom. Just very good grade 1, and there's not much more I can say about it. Then we have 4 copies of our PG and Custodial Dragon, grade 1 boost, 0 sources, K base. Continue Sentinel, and you have it to 4 cells in deck. I was put on guard circle, choose your mutes, it cannot be hit on the battle, and if your hand is 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it. Standard PG, nothing special about it. Basically, that means if this and only 1 of the cards in your hand, when you place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard one, which is great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game, and then when your opponent counterattacks you in the late game or on their first grade 3 turn, you can just throw down the PG and be like, nope, I'm safe, even if you only have 1 hand card, and you're good. So all around, it's a very solid PG. You can run Plan to Prevent instead, but I prefer Custodial Dragon because Custodial Dragon came out close to the time of Granfia, but remember they have the exact same skill, so it doesn't really matter. And also this deck does want to call as much as possible in the early game because I won't lie to you, I called Burrow Mushroom like twice in the early game. I shoved them both to soul, I get 4 plant tokens, and then the grade 1 of the Vanguard technically gets me the last one. So 4 Custodial Dragons, very helpful when you kind of go all in on the offense as early as possible. Then we have one of in the ride deck, not in the main deck of our last grade 1, and that is Future Suzarian Granfia. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Okay, never mind, so the whole ride line doesn't require the starter, but it's so nice to have the starter anyways. Auto Moon is rode upon by Genius Wise Wolf Granfia. Call up to 1 plant token to your back row center rear guard. Plant tokens are grade 0, 5k power, 1 critical, and have boost. I don't know why this in row had to be specifically restricted to the back row center, but I mean, cool, free plant token, and obviously you can use Burrow Mushroom to basically get a free 4 out of nowhere if you have 2 of them. And Farming Pumpkin can at least get 1. So it's nice to have Suzarian, very solid grade 1, and this ability also works well regardless of what grade you're at. So, you know, basically this whole deck is rush while you're on grade 1 and then just see what happens after that. One of Granfia in the ride deck. It has no rear guard skill, sadly, but when the entire grade 1 line acts as Luar to some extent and just spams out the entire board, yeah, it works as well as it does with no rear guard skill. Then move on to our grade 2s. We're on 2 copies of Prod, Pollen, Raphilius. Grade 2 and a 5k shield, 9k base. Auto, when it's placed on rear guard circle by counterblasting 1, call up to 2 plant tokens to the rear guard circle. Again, they are grade 0, 5k power, 1 critical, and have boost. Hell yeah, I told you by the end of this video I could do it. Anyways, you know, being able to get 2 plant tokens is nice. It's only for a simple cost of CB1. You have no idea how useful that can be sometimes when, like, you get to endgame and your opponent has board and you just throw down one of these is really nice and reminds you that, hey, not every card in this deck that's a grade 1 is useful. You know, you can, I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. Not only the grade 1s are useful, the grade 2 is also very useful. I have ran her since, like, Roroa came out, and I regret nothing because she has been really useful since that day. So, 2 of Prod, Pollen, Raphilius. While she's not always going to be used because mainly you want to spam the board with the grade 1s, she will be extremely useful when you give her the chance to be useful, based off of my history of it, so 2 of. And then we have 4 copies of Ranran Orangine, grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when placed on rear guard circle may call up to 1 plant token to rear guard circle. So it's not a mandatory call. You may call it if you want to, but if you don't want to, then cool. But hey, it's a free rear guard, regardless of what grade your Vanguard's at, regardless of grade your opponent's Vanguard at. Hell, it doesn't matter what your Vanguard's name is. You just get a free plant token. And, you know, it is abusable with Nobel Rose token, and it is not a once per turn, so you can just play multiple. And its other ability, which again is not a once per turn, auto from a rear guard circle, sadly, not on any rear guard circle, but hey, I guess it makes sense considering the bullshit you can pull off with this deck. At the beginning of your battle phase, if you have Vanguard Granfia in its card name, you may call 1 plant token to rear guard. So again, not a mandatory call. Granted, you only get 1, but you can choose to call if you don't want to. But A, you get a free plant token. You can possibly get 2 if you fill both from or rear guard circles with this. So, you know, that's plus 10 to the Nobel Rose token. But also, I'm just going to say this now for the sake of example. If this part wasn't there and it was just rear guard circle, there was a game where I had 4 of them in my hand. Granted, 2 of them would have been useless, but that is a total of 8 free plant tokens. 8 free plant tokens in 1 turn for free. No cost behind it. That Nobel Rose token in that 1 move would have hit 45k. And that Nobel Rose token already had 6 plant tokens under it. So that's a total of 14 plant tokens under it. Yeah, numbers be crazy. Anyways, 4 of Ranran Orangine, just very solid grade 2. They limited this ability for a reason, but being able to call plant tokens regardless of a grade your Vanguard's at, and as long as it's a Granfia, it doesn't matter what grade it is. Like I said, you can get more rear guards out in the early game, so again, this deck does really good in an early game rush. It's just nice to have. 4 copies of Ranran Orangine. It's just a very solid grade 2, and it does its job amazingly. Then we have our last grade 2, one of in the right deck, none in the main deck, because again, no main decks or skill, no rear guard skill, but hey, like I said, the grade 1s pretty much do all the work, and then the grade 2s come in helpful when they need to, so we don't really need this thing to have rear guard skill. So one of in the right deck, none in the main deck of Genius Wise Wolf Granfia. Grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base, contains Vanguard. If you have a plant token on your rear guard circle, if your soul has features Suzerain Granfia, when you would ride a grade 3 card of Granfia in its card name from your ride deck, you can ride without discarding a card from your hand. Cool. For your ride deck, which is nice to have, you're almost guaranteed to have a plant token with everything you've seen. Literally every card in this deck but the main grade 3, chip mass over here, the PG, the triggers obviously, and then this, don't call plant tokens. Everything else calls plant tokens. So, you know, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a plant token on board for this ability, and the only way you're not going to is if you went second and then your opponent board nuked every single plant token on your board. But if they didn't do that for some arbitrary reason, well, free ride for you. Either way, the one of in the ride deck is nice to have. You know, while the free ride deck is kind of repetitive with all the other ride lines that have it, it's okay-ish, I guess. I mean, like, with this deck, it's fine, especially because, like, you rush as early as physically possible. So, one of Granfia in the ride deck. You know, not a bad grade 2. Its skill is repetitive, but it could be worse. And then we have our grade 3s. Run 2 copies of Burst Peas. Grade 3 Junior Persona 13k base. Auto rear guard once per turn, when this unit attacks into anything, whether it's Vanguard or rear guard. By counter blasting when retiring a plant token, this unit gives 10k power for the turn. All around solid. It's a 23k swing, you know, combine it with Granfia's skill, possibly somewhere in the, because plus 25, so it's 48, maybe Persona at 58 plus any triggers. Like, all around Burst Peas, when you get down to it, is a good swinger. Like, that's why it's at 2 of. It's more on the lines of a finisher, really, and even if it's not a finisher, you play it as early as, you either play it on the first grade 3 turn and try to kill then, or if you don't, you just wait till the end of the game to kill them with it. So either way, Burst Peas, solid grade 2. It could eat up CB if you're not careful with it, which is why I say, like, only play it on the turn you think you can get kill. But either way, good grade 3, 2 of. It's a 23k swing, and it probably will be more than that if you combine it with Granfia and literally anything else on the deck. Then we have last card in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck of our main grade 3, Lavian Lord, Granfia. Grade 3, Tundra Persona at 13k base. Act Vanguard Circle once per turn. By soul blasting 1, turn all of your plant tokens on your rear guards into plant gauges, and call a Nobel Rose token to your back or center rear guard, and I'll put all your plant gauges on that unit. So, cool. You know, you basically turn the Nobel Rose token into a big beat stick because, again, it just gets a shit ton of numbers. And again, this deck particularly works like Luard does, or at least whenever I play Luard, which is the second you get the ability to, it doesn't matter what grade you're at, you just spam the board with a shit ton of grade 1s, or in this case, a shit ton of grade 1s and 0s, the 0s being this. And then, you know, when you get to grade 3, you turn all those 0s into gauges, send them up into Nobel Rose token, and see how many numbers you plus off that. I think the max I plussed off that at once was 25, because I genuinely have all like 5 rear guards as plant tokens, so basically free 25. And then auto Vanguard, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked by putting 1 or more of your Nobel Rose tokens or plant gauges in a total of 5 cards to drop zone. Choose one of your rear guards, and it gets plus 5k power to end of turn for each card put into the drop for this cost, and if you put 3 or more, stand it. All around, pretty solid. Whatever unit you give it to is probably getting plus 25, considering this deck can consistently hit at least 5 for each one. See, the funny thing is, when I first played this, I completely forgot that you can only put 5. So my first match, I think I put like 8. So whatever I stood got plus 40. While that is broken, it can definitely be broken if it's built for the sake of competitive. To be fair, it was fucking funny seeing I think I gave it to a trigger, like just seeing a trigger get plus 40 off of some BS ability. Either way though, Granfia is very solid. Granted, at most you only get 25, sadly. I wish it would just nuke the Nobel Rose token and see what happens. But hey, it allows for multi-attack. It does it without any CB cost, so literally the only card in this deck that costs CB is this one, meaning you can just use its ability to its fullest extent and then never question it. So that's actually a good, well, okay, that and this, but like, you know, you can use their abilities to their full extent without really questioning or worrying anything about it. But also in the sense of, again, free restand, doesn't cost soul, and only this ability costs soul. And the part I like the most about this deck is, while yes, it focuses or it wants the Nobel Rose token on board, take a look at everything you see for a second. How many card here mentions plant gauges or Nobel Rose token? I'll give you a hint. Only 2 of them mention plant gauges or Nobel Rose token. This one and Granfia. Now, while yes, you do lose access to basically all of Granfia if you don't have a Nobel Rose token, think about it. If it is better not to use the Nobel Rose token, for whatever reason it may be, maybe because you're gonna have to give up all your rear guard basically, and you're gonna want those rear guards. Instead of using the Vanguard skill, if you don't have a Nobel Rose token, because maybe your opponent did you the favor and killed it, call Rosium, we'll call anything else, call Rosium Fairy, kill something, get 2 free plant tokens to rearguard. Because you don't have a Nobel Rose token, they don't go as gauges, and basically repopulate your board with plant tokens, and you can still do a shit ton of plays via this. Sadly, you cannot use Granfia's ability to stand your things, but hey, on the upside of this, you're forcing out numbers and you get board presence. Granted, you don't have to do that at all. Actually, I've never had to do it, but I know the day is going to come up one time, at least once, and when that day comes, I'm going to be ready for it. So take that as well. But I do like how the deck can actually just work on its own without the Nobel Rose token, because that's just kind of how it does. It does better with it, but it can work without it. Either way, though, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, it is a nice deck to play. You grade 1 rush, and any deck that can really rush at any point, I am a fan towards, especially if it's like right from the beginning. So any deck that can grade 1 rush, I love. So being able to grade 1 rush is amazing, and also grade 2s do the main job. Also, the grade 1s just do a lot of the work. And then Granfia, you know, only costing a Soul Blast in total for its entire skill is pretty solid. So, you know, you just get 1 big rear guard on the board that just has the biggest boost, and then after you boost Granfia with it, you stand something else and basically give it plus 25 is just all around amazing. And it does combo well with Rosium Fairy. If only I drew Rosium Fairy more often, but hey, I'll take what I can get. So, and not to mention the fact that the deck can also work without the need of the plant gauges. So without further ado, I'm going to end here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.